Black and sexy, baby.
If you haven't seen Get Out, you need to go see it right now before you see this interview, so come back after. I'm sitting here with Jordan Peele, the amazing writer, director, auteur of this incredible art project. So please see the film. This is a major spoiler alert because we are unpacking many things in the film. Lots of spoilers. So go see the film, come back, or watch your interview now. Hello, Black and Sexy fans, Black and Sexy universe. I'm Numa, and I'm sitting here today with Mr. Jordan Peele. If you don't know this face, you should. So director of the Get Out movie is what we really want to talk about today. So Jordan and I know each other.
We do.
Sort of, kinda. And
even though we actually real life know each other.
Yeah, in real life we know each other, yes.
That is true.
So, and thank you.
There's no sort of about it. Thank you for having me.
You came all the way down here to hang out with us for a bit, so.
I wouldn't miss it. I'm excited.
Well, I mean, I really want to talk about the movie and the themes of the movie and just you as a director, because this is the world is getting to know you now as the auteur, Jordan Peele, and I think that's important to you, so I want to hear about that, your segue into that, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the themes of the movie.
Right on.
So was making a film something that you fantasized about as a kid, like being behind the camera and calling the shots in that way?
Oh, totally. It's, you know, I think I was 13, 14 when I was just, I was totally sold. I wanted to be a director. I had a VHS collection that was like 300 plus movies, just obsessed. I would go see movies over and over again.
Like what movies were in your VHS?
Well,
taking it all the way back to VCRs and
you know, like early movies that really meant a lot to me were like Aliens, The Shining. I love Thelma and Louise.
Great movie, good choice.
Interview with the Vampire, but then also like, you know, like things like deeper cuts like Dead Again, The First Power, Glory.
Did Glory have any influence on Get Out for you? Any themes in Glory?
Yeah, I wanted to make a movie where a black man has tears coming out of his eyes. I knew that much. No, I mean, yeah, it's it's interesting because you know the scene, the iconic scene with Daniel where he's crying.
Yeah,
I think it's become iconic for a similar reason that Denzel Washington's iconic scene in Glory has, which is we haven't really allowed black men to express fear in this way, especially in film. And so, you know, we're either the badass or the monster itself,
right?
But we haven't, as a culture, been in touch with what is scary about being black. And so, you know, I think that's why that image hits. You know, I love the movie Glory. You know, at the same time as time went on, and I you know, it was very early on one of the most affecting movies to me.
Yeah.
But as time went on, I also began to kind of wonder why black stories are being told through white perspectives, and feeling like that needs to change as well.
So you felt that way from a young age, that why are all these stories being told? Because Glory is like what they pushed on us in school. So
yeah, I don't think I was in touch with that when it came out. And it still is. Like, I'll watch it. It's one of these movies that, as a film, everything that's planted in it pays off in this beautifully thematic way, which is another piece of influence I would take from the movie. But only as I kind of started becoming more academic with film and thinking about it more, and noticing the trend of, you know, white savior movies, did I really start going, okay, something's weird here.
It's weird, very weird.
And I think a big part of it is, you know, we have, as a culture, we've been slow to encourage young black artists to reach for the stars. So with this movie, for example, you know, I was on a TV show for years. I had 2 TV shows for many years. I had a great career as an actor. I still did not see that this was a movie that was ever going to be produced.
So what did you see? Well, first of all, when did you first start writing the script?
Around 8 years ago.
Okay.
Well, and just to be, I'm gonna turn off
It's
my
blowing
phone.
up.
It's blowing up. Oh, it's Edward Zwick, the director of Glory. He says, "Keep my name out your fucking mouth." Okay.
I thought it was Denzel saying, "Hold on." I did win an Academy Award for that.
I
Thanks.
did though.
Yeah.
Well, and
That
I do have to stress, like, that is, I think, one of the great films of all time about race or any other, whatever. And obviously the performances in it are just legendary.
Yeah.
But it's, it exists in Hollywood, and this is kind of an
that
interesting
whole construct
rule.
of, I feel you.
So, like, 8 years ago, I started conceiving the movie. I actually put pen to paper on this script officially like 3 years ago.
Okay.
But it was.
So in your conception of the movie, were you gathering images? Were you making little notes every time? What was kind of that process?
Very, very strategic, very meticulous. The first thing was like, I wasn't making a movie to be made. I was making a movie for me as a writer. So something I could go home after a long day's work and just this would be my pastime. This would be fun.
Just watching your own movie, like I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch the movie I made. Yeah, that's.
To write it. Writing it was the reward for me after a long day's work. So it was very much, I knew that anything I wrote, I was having fun writing. Turned out good. So I forgot everything else. Everything else about how to get a movie made, what's the audience gonna like. I wrote a movie for me, and so part of that was just following the fun of writing a movie. So if I wanted to, if I was getting into like this, secret societies, right? That's one like thing. I go out and study secret societies. I invented this whole mythology for this secret society that doesn't exist, but is connected to kind of real ones. Yeah. And that in itself is so fun, and it's a layer of depth that you can feel in the movie, maybe, but I don't get into it. But then, a different day, it could be like, okay, what's my what are my favorite horror movies and why? And like dissecting that, and all sorts of different things. A lot of internet searching, and it was just a blast coming up with the premise for it.
And then you finally were able to get it all out.
Yeah,
finish it
after about 5, and I was doing this with several other movies as well, several other premises. So at some point, maybe like 4 years ago, or so, this one kind of presented itself to me as like,
it's the one.
There's something, this is the one. If anything to focus on, this one's pulling ahead because it's kind of completing its own circles. It's making sense, and that's And then when I went out, to kind of half pitch it. I had a general meeting with this guy, Sean McKittrick, at QC Entertainment, and the whole thing was like, so here's a movie no one's ever gonna make, but
this was your pitch.
This is my pitch, and it wasn't. I was like, I was trying to figure out what can we work together on.
Yeah.
But this one was like, so this one you're not gonna want this, but it's gonna impress you. So I told him the movie. By the end of that pitch, he was like, let's make it, and I was like,
wow.
I was legit.
They got it.
Okay, you get it. And then from that point forward, it was on the tracks. Blumhouse came in, and it's perfect for them.
Yeah, it's so perfect for them.
Perfect price point. It's an outside sort of perspective.
Fringe. Fringe, but not fringe, because what you're talking about with Black men. And women too, I want to get into that a little bit too, but the fear that's not expressed. How do you feel in your personal life? How do you deal with that ongoing fear?
Well, for me, it's horror. It's horror and comedy. That's one of the reasons I love horror as an art form. It's my favorite genre, is because I think this is the way that we address our fears. We face our fears in the most comfortable environment possible, right? We're amongst our friends, we're yelling and, you know, all this, and but we get scared. And I think, you know, fears begin to take hold when we don't face them, when we don't address them. I think it's one of the reasons that the Black community in general has shown a certain loyalty to the horror fan base, along with other, you know, minority groups and groups who are really taught that, you know, we're told that our fears aren't justified all the time. And so I think, and we're told we're not allowed to be afraid. We have to be strong in the face of all of it, of all of it that's, you know, all that we're up against. So I just feel like horror, making this movie here, this was me dealing with my fear.
Got it. The other day I was thinking about the film and how I was thinking that if he wasn't a smoker, would any of this have unraveled? Because there was that was the kind of, I was like, is this the world's greatest anti-smoking campaign? Because if he didn't smoke, what would have been her entry point to say, well, let's, you know, try to take you under and really absolve your fears while we inflict these horrifying acts upon you. So
I think, you know, in the mythology of the Armitage family, it would have just been something else. They would have. We all have some vice. We all have some thing that we need to address. But more than smoking, you know, the character Chris, he needed to get at that traumatic incident.
Right.
That was the smoking was a symptom of this trauma he had felt.
Yeah.
So that, you know, I think one of the more beautiful layers of the film to me is that even though this is some sick, twisted therapy he's going through, it actually does unlock a piece of his psyche. It allows him to deal with something he's been
he actually experiences a release through all of that, something major. So how did you construct that piece of the story? And that we'll get to the personal part a little bit then. So, because you told me a story one time about your mother and how she influenced your, you know, your feeling, like how much you're drawn to horror films and things. I don't know if you remember that or not. So that's something you want to share, and does any of that link up to the trauma that you kind of illustrated with Chris in the movie?
Well, so I know the story you're talking about, which I bring up to my mother all the time, is, you know, and also kind of helps show why horror and comedy are mixed for me. So every now and then, like if I was, you know, bad or something, or if I was being around, you know, she would do this little practical joke where she'd be like, Mom, what's going on? And she'd be like, Mommy isn't here anymore, Jordan. I'd be like, stop, don't do that, that's not funny. And she'd say, I don't know what you mean by stop. So it was like this Stepford thing.
It's terrifying.
That is terrifying. And like, you know, as a single mom, I was scared, you know, I was scared. But I also, you know, and then she'd laugh and I'd laugh. And so it was
How far would she take it? Did you have the tears coming out of your face?
Pretty much.
And she's like, I'm just kidding, I'm here, yeah.
Totally. I mean, that was her.
Your mom she's interesting.
She's got
different.
A dark sense of humor.
Yeah, she does.
And she also, you know, she was very, you know, she introduced me to movies like Rosemary's Baby, and then I, you know, had my own morbid curiosity.
At what age did she show you Rosemary's Baby?
Well, you know, I think I was old enough. She, you know, because she's into movies, and she's, you know, I grew up a couple blocks away from the Dakota where, you know, John Lennon was shot. Rosemary's Baby was shot in a different way, but so I do remember my mother saying to me, maybe I was like 11 or 12, but she's like, you know, Rosemary's Baby is something. Have you ever heard of it?
That you should see.
That you should see.
Yeah.
And I remember she was telling me, like, yeah, when I was, you know, this point in the 60s or something, or the late 60s, early 70s, I can't remember, I think it's late 60s, but everybody was carrying around this red little book, and it was this whole phenomenon.
Yeah.
And she told me about it. I remember seeing it early, and I wasn't quite ready to, I didn't find it terribly scary, first of all, but I also wasn't quite ready to go there or wrap my head around it. I remember my mother said, this movie is interesting because it captures some of the fear of that she related to being pregnant.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah, I think that really honed in on women's fears of just the whole reproductive cycle, really, and you don't really, everyone tells you what is gestating, but you don't really know for sure. Right. And no one does exactly until
there's this community that seemed to be making decisions about your body for you, and there's this control of choices that men around her have, her husband has in the movie. Yeah. So it's this movie that's, I realized later, is really about gender. It's about, and so that movie along with Stepford Wives, what they did with gender, I realized that there must be a way to do that with race. Seeing as that they're both movements, sort of parallel civil rights movements that were certainly intersecting when Hillary and Obama were going at it for the Democrat,
big time.
Which is right around when this movie kind of came to me. And the first thought is like, you can't make a movie about race. You can't make a horror movie about race. There's nobody wants that. That's Black people don't want to see that. White people don't want to see that. You just can't do it. And then the eureka moment was like, but they did it with gender. Yeah. And everybody going into those movies, everyone that watches Stepford Wives, you are Rosemary. You're the protagonist. And that to me that's the power of story. That's why story is so important and transformative. When it's told right, correctly, you can see through the eyes and the perspective of somebody else. And so I was like, shit, you know what? This is one of the missing pieces in the conversation. We haven't been allowed to invite white people to see through our eyes. We haven't gotten enough of this opportunity. And I didn't know what it would make, but I knew, it was like, the fact that doesn't exist in a modern sense is part of the problem, I think.
Yeah, for sure. The party, the little...
Yeah, the get together.
Yeah, talk to us.
Which was also one of the options for title that I had for a while. The get together, huh? Which has a double meaning.
You settled on the right title.
What did you say?
You settled on the right title. I did. But we'll talk about the other alternate things too. Okay. But walk us through the get together as your point of view, and the points that you were laying out for us.
Yeah. So basically, I realized a piece of the Black experience, or I should say my Black experience, but one that everyone seems to agree with, is true.
It's resonating.
Is that if especially in a situation like this where you're the one Black person and it's a lot of white people, you'll have these interactions with people where they are trying to make these connections with your Blackness and reach out and say, it's okay that you're Black, and hey, I like Black things. And that's like the forefront of everyone's mind. And it's the type of thing where, it's not the most painful form of prejudice or bigotry. It's actually, it's endearing in some ways to have somebody like kind of naively try and reach out. But the thing that I think that white people don't realize is that when that's the conversation you're having with everybody, then the only conclusion at the end of that experience is I wasn't allowed to have the same party as if I were a white person. Right.
So it's not disarming. It becomes something else.
It becomes something else. And it was, for me, this, I wrote this movie in this era where I feel like we were really suppressing the racial expression and conversation, and we were saying like people were saying, Obama's president, so can't we just get past race? And some people were saying, you know what, it's Obama is president because he's black. It made it easier for him. And all this ridiculous denial of the black experience. Well, this party sequence is an example of something I hadn't really seen in a movie, a part of the experience I hadn't really seen expressed, and I felt was like a perfect way to show the world, even when you don't see racism, you've seen or committed this interaction.
Right.
So now just take a look from my perspective.
Everyone can sink into that, right? Everyone can
right.
identify themselves. They can see themselves in that moment.
That's it. And so often, being black, I and we are accused of seeing racism where it doesn't exist, or being, finding race or being obsessed with race. And so this to me was I'm saying, like, we're not obsessed with race. Look, you are.
Right.
We're living here. So yeah, that's what's going on.
It's wild because I haven't had any conversations except for with one white person about the movie, because everyone around me that's seen has been black, and so we've just been trading our stories about it. But the one white person I talked to about the film said that he didn't understand why they were trading brains. Like I feel like he didn't understand the movie at all. When he said that, like, he didn't get it at all. He said, it was really good. It was really interesting. I just don't understand why they had to trade the brains and why they needed to be in the black body. Like, all of that was completely, it didn't register at all. So I don't know what.
I mean, that could either be like, I'm so racist, I don't even understand. I'm so unracist, I don't even understand.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. It could be that.
It makes no sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely seen people who are very conflicted on how to react with the movie, but it also, I think where it's really what I'm proud of is the way it's connecting. For the most part, seems like people come into the movie from different perspectives and different places. At the end, everyone's cheering for the same thing.
Yeah, the end. Want to talk about the ending?
Let's get at the end.
So I'm aware of the alternate ending. Is that something that you talk about, or? I haven't gone too deep into it. But it is the ending that you read in the script. First of all, I had many endings over the I want to hear all of them.
Over the course of several years. It'd be a long time to get into all of them. But the ending that was in there was, Chris ends up in jail. He ends up in prison, and it was meant to really sort of point out that the cops arriving in this movie has a different connotation than the cops arriving in a different horror movie, and that the house had burnt down, and so evidence was gone. But all that aside, the evidence or no evidence,
right?
The system,
he was going down.
The system made up its mind.
Yeah,
and it was meant to be a real gut punch. It was meant It was.
When I read it, I was completely gutted. Yeah.
It hit hard, and what I just found, and this was my decision, was by the when I had written that, we were in the post-racial lie, and by the time we were dealing with racism in a more vocal way, we had Black Lives Matter, we had more awareness brought to brutality,
right? A
little bit more awareness brought to the prison industrial complex. The conversation was alive in a way that it wasn't when I wrote it,
right?
And so the original purpose for the movie, the purpose of the movie sort of changed, and I really realized that no, this movie has to be about giving Black people a hero and an escape and a happy way to talk about this real life horror. And you know, the truth of the matter is, the moment that car comes and arrives, the audience does all the audience does no work. Everybody knows what's going to happen. So in that moment, I had my point. I don't have to make my point. The audience makes my point. So then I can do what we all want.
I was shocked.
Yeah, you didn't know.
You know, because I read the script, and so I kind of knew. I was just watching to see how you executed all this and the performances, and then I was like, wait, what's happening? Why is this different? And I was very conflicted, but I completely understand and agree with that. That, you know, we needed that hero, and who better to be our hero? You know, it was really flawless. But I want to open it up to some of our team members who have seen the film and have questions, and then maybe one question from a fan on Twitter. So, Tina, yes.
Okay, sorry. Can I just say that was like my favorite moment when the cop car showed up, and the fact that you guys didn't go there and let the audience just like, oh my God, he's going to die. Like, I knew for sure he was about to die, and just like having that relief and all of that expressed by the audience was even more powerful to me.
Thank you.
Than doing it. So I love the ending.
Yeah.
But my question is, I have so many questions to pick one. Okay. Are we gonna see these characters again in another project? Like, are we gonna see what happened with
Sequel?
Yeah, is there a part two? What happened to all the other Black people that she cooked before? Is it over? Like,
I'm a little torn. I'm very, you know, I feel like it's this nice, tight classic right now, or has potential to be. And so I would never, let's put it this way, I would never do a sequel unless I thought I was going to be raising the bar. So I'm not closed off to it, and I love a challenge, and I've definitely been thinking about it, but I'm not pushing to do that sequel right now.
okay.
Right. Well, you gotta enjoy the wave,
Yeah.
you
Gotta
know.
enjoy the wave.
This is a great wave. Very needed wave.
I've got, and you know, I've got those other projects that I've been thinking about for a while too. That you know, now I get to do basically. So
Awesome.
I'm excited for that.
New genre.
Congratulations.
Brittany, I know you had a question.
The dinner scene when he first met the brother, was the brother trying to figure out if he wanted to like inhabit his body himself, when he kept talking about like the MMA fighting, you know, it's like it's all about your mind because you're strong. So that's what I got from that. I wasn't sure if that's exactly what.
Yeah, there was you know, if you look at it, when the auction happens, you know, Jeremy's sitting there like.
Oh, Jeremy!
I think he did want that vessel, but he, but you know, that character is so fun to me, because he comes in with, first of all, the actor is just is amazing.
Yeah,
so
from jump,
he's just
stealing all the scenes. Yeah,
locked in. And you know, that was the, you know, he's the character who is the rebel, right? I mean, you sort of notice like he's the one guy that when the flip happens, he's pretty much the same. He's not really putting on an act. But yes, that is he did covet that.
Yeah.
That body.
He covered they coveted
the body.
Covered those bodies. Dennis, Shama?
I have a question. So, let me say first, I really appreciate the way that you articulated visually the sunken place. I mean, as soon as it happened, I was just like, oh my God, this is beautiful. The way it just like, how do you really show that? My question is, do you mind sharing with us a moment in your life where you may have experienced that sunken place?
Sunken place.
Well, you know, it is a place that's a symbol for the character's deepest fear. You know, my thoughts of it is that it's a personal, you know, it's a construct of the brain. So it's a personalized place in the psyche that will look different for everybody, and but it's basically represents the being trapped by fear, being paralyzed by fear, which is
The Chainsaw Massacre
which
is
is the
coming
Chainsaw
for us right now.
It's also,
No big deal.
No big deal. It's just
Sink.
a horror.
Yeah, it's just a horror
weapons
movie.
outside
No
the-
big deal.
But it's also, it's a symbol for the marginalization of African Americans. It's a symbol for the theaters that were relegated to shout out at the screen what we want when we want our perspectives, our abilities, our skin represented in these movies. We don't get that representation, so that's not a mistake. Also, it's very much referring to the black people in prison that we throw to
Sunken place.
we throw into the back of our minds, literally and figuratively. Literally in this movie, figuratively, there's a neglect of this. This movie was about neglect. It's about neglect of this systemic problem that we weren't allowed to talk about.
And our humanity, the neglect of our humanity as a culture, really.
That's right. So it's all those things. But then for me, like as a kid, I'm in my room watching TV to keep me up because I'm paralyzed with fear from seeing movies and I have a single mother as well. So the idea of anything happening to her, it's a very personal place, that feeling of being trapped.
Dennis?
Yeah, I just want to say congratulations for breaking 100 million.
Hey! Wait, how many digits is that?
That's 9. I think that's 9. Is it 9?
Yes.
I don't know. I might be making that up.
Well,
That's 9.
that's 9.
That's 9.
That's 9 digits.
That's a 9 digit.
That's
So
a
I
9
just wanted to
digit.
say,
Thank you.
did you? It was great to hear you say you were writing this film for yourself initially, and it took this long over the time, and then at a certain point it becomes business and career and all that. Of course, that always comes into play. But did you, when you were making the film, you might have to clear your mind sometimes. I'm just doing my thing. But did you ever think it was going to be a #1 movie based on the budget and everything else you had going on? Basically, I see it as an indie film still. And I'm probably in so many, even though it's under $5 million, for me that's huge. But but still an indie film budget. Did you think it was going to make a #1 movie and break this kind of record?
It was. Every turn it was kind of designed to be this phenomenon. Like I knew that if this movie came out, something was gonna happen.
Yeah.
It was. I thought it was good. I thought it was expressing something that we needed expressed. I thought something must go wrong here. Either someone's going to come in the 11th hour and say, "Oh wait, black people kills white people at the end. Nope, we can't actually put this movie out. Sorry."
It's okay. We'll have to roll it, just
roll it back.
rewind. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hold on.
At least it only cost us $5
Gotta
million.
get in that
so
editing
it's
room
not-
and
we'll take that
just
hit.
rearrange some things.
I thought maybe it would, end up on VOD because it was thought not suitable. This is all me, having been taught that my favorite movie doesn't have a place, and it's so. Luckily I'm alive at this time where we see the beginning of this renaissance happening where Hollywood has, black voices, untapped voices are now being understood for the commodity that they are.
We tapped our own voice.
We tapped our own voice, and we have, by the nature of being kept out of Hollywood, now we have the original stories. Because you can't find these stories in the past, right?
Right.
So I thought that something was going to happen to prevent it, but I did think, like, if this gets out, if this movie, this way I'm planning it, gets out, something cool is going to happen.
Well, are you getting this? How much are you getting? I know you're getting something about this being a racist movie against white people. How much is that really coming to you?
Yeah, not that much. To be honest, I think I think the narrative of white people getting pissed off is too juicy to not like jump on it when we see it. I feel like it stems mostly from a couple of comments from people who haven't seen the film. Yeah. And that generally, even if you are a hater going in, most people seem to come out of it liking it. But you know, you read some comments here or there. They usually sort of reveal a certain racism within themselves when I see those comments. If somebody does feel offended by the film, I don't want to minimize that either, because that's what's been happening to me my whole life. My reaction, my
you don't want to put them in a sunken place. Like,
no,
go down.
I just want to say, I want to say like people are allowed to think this is a racist film.
I think majority of the thoughts is like, we can never make a film when we're killing all black people. You know, that's kind of the thing.
But they kill us all the time in the horror movies.
It's like, can we make a white and sexy TV? You know, that's like the thing. Like, can we do that? We can. It's like, it's always about not being even.
It's all about not being even, and within that, there's this massive denial of how uneven it is. That's the crazy
thing. There's no sight.
So you know, there are a ton of woke white people. And many have seen this movie and got it, and some people I feel like have expressed a certain amount, like this woke me up to some shit.
You woke some white people up.
I love that. I really that feels special. But I mean, nothing to me feels as rewarding from this movie as, first of all, the fact that we have a new way to discuss race. Like I love the fact that, you know, this idea of the sunken place is resonating, because even if it's just a little distinction, it shifts. You know, where normally you see Ben Carson, you be Uncle Tom, motherfucker.
It helps us adjust the monolith than the anti-monolith.
It turns that Uncle Tom becomes this motherfucker in the sunken place.
Yeah, like which. I mean, when you've ingested so much, how can you not sink into yourself?
Yes.
So even if it's not put upon you, you do. It is kind of like a self-implosion in a way.
What I love about that change in the way we might look at this, that question, is it goes from fuck this motherfucker, get the fuck out, you ain't black, to somebody needs to help him. My lord, he is trapped.
Let's pull him back up.
So there's an empathy that's kind of like infused into different elements of the conversation. I feel like is important, because we is important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there are many ways where I see like people kind of latching on to certain symbols or things that I love. And then there's nothing more that I love more than watching a mixed audience, you know, watch the first half of the movie and feel like you know, have I done that? Have I done that to you? Oh shit, I'm feeling comfortable. There's nervous laughter, nervous energy. Yeah. But by the time we're in the last act of this movie, we're all Chris. And that to me that's in a way this movie is pulling a coagula, right? It's taking us from being separate, and by the end we're one.
And we getting out too. Yeah. One more question from the fans.
So we got one from the fans. This is from Nay at Oh Hey It's Nay on Twitter.
Screen cap.
She said, Jordan, maybe hard to answer without spoiling for people, but what's your favorite Easter egg in the film?
My favorite Easter egg. Ooh, that's tough. I mean, there's a lot going on. You know, favorite. It's so weird. You know, these Easter eggs. I'm so happy that element is people are responding to it and like sort of finding.
We love it.
The treasure. Yeah. I love that. A lot of these, honestly, you know, it was. You know, so many different factors went into every decision, and normally it would be like, okay, what's what works on many levels, and so some of these Easter eggs I just didn't think anyone would ever pick up, but me. There's a shout out to Flight 237 in the background of one of the airplane scenes. So that's a Shining reference.
I didn't catch that.
That's one. But there's a lot.
All right.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I could talk about this film with you for hours, but I know you've got things you got to do. Thank you for coming down to our headquarters.
This was really, really great interview, and that's one of the.
It's the blackest interview you had.
It's the blackest interview I had.
It could get blacker because I'm like, I need to hear about Georgina. I need to hear about Black women. I need to hear about how Chris related. I need to know about Chris and his relationship to Black women, because we haven't even touched any of the interracial. We haven't gone there at all, But I feel like that's almost another interview. But I remember when I was reading the script and I read the scene with Georgina at the window and admiring herself, and Chris seeing her in that moment, not knowing what was going on with her, and it made me think about: is he attracted to her? Do they kind of have this unknown thing that even though I'm here with this white woman, I still have an attraction for you as a Black woman? I'm trying to understand you. I just felt like there were a lot of layers there that I guess we could talk about. Yeah,
it's a great question, and I haven't really started unpacking that with anyone yet. For me, there's part of this experience of being with Chris being with a white woman, that there's this internal fear. Okay, to what extent am I denying my blackness, my family, my roots? It's no mistake that the moment that traumatized him as a kid, he didn't show up for his mother.
Yeah.
And so there's this feeling of going to this white suburb and entering this white family. There's this fear of am I denying myself? Am I denying my family? And sure enough, he meets Logan at the party with an older white woman who's basically treating him like a servant, manservant. And Chris is also in this thing. Okay, is this the direction I'm headed? So there's a very strong connection with Chris and Georgina, and there are several times in the movie where her will is strong enough to break out of the sunken place, even for
she comes to the surface and they have their moments.
She's just trying to warn him. She's trying to warn him, and then. As you know,
we're always down for y'all. That's what it is. We're always down. Okay. Even in the sunken place, we're like, brother. I'm in the sunken place, but I'm gonna crawl out. I'm gonna crawl my way out to help try to save you.
Very important to me to have first of all, to have a strong Black woman's presence fighting for this cause, even though we never really get to meet her.
Yeah.
And it was also very important. Can you put a big spoiler alert in the beginning?
Oh, and in the beginning, it's going to be maybe just, first of all, we're going to say, audience, if you haven't seen this film, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
And then this is all full of spoilers. This is only for the woke people who saw the film. Go see the film, come back later. That's what we're going to say in the beginning.
So then, cut to the end, when the moment where we're like, Chris, no, don't do it. Don't go back for her. And it's that was one of the biggest challenges, because I knew that specifically Black people would be like, nope. No.
Oh, we were. Hats were flying off, yes.
You done okay so far, don't mess it up.
Yeah, you're almost out.
You're almost out. But that was why, I wanted to make sure if I was going to have a character do some stupid shit like that, it was for a real emotional reason that we understood. And I planted the whole time, this dude, the one thing he's not going to do is leave a Black woman to die.
Oh, it's almost romantic.
It is.
Yeah.
It's romantic, and you know, I think in the end, if he had made it out scot-free and hadn't gone back for her, he never would have been free. He never would have been free.
Wow, yeah. Well, we're gonna end it on that.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you so much. We do have to get you to do a little shout out for Black and Sexy, baby.
Black and Sexy, baby.
Black and Sexy.
Black and sexy, baby.